All right. Shalom. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, and Kakwadash. I want to say double honors to the apostles and the bishop elders at Great Millstone for teaching us his word in truth and sincerity and for ruling well. And salutations to my fellow Akim across the four corners of the globe, preaching and prophesying in the name of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. I'm my brother Gabar Yahweh from GMS Hawaii, coming to you with another quick lesson. And this lesson is on this picture that you see in front of you. I was out earlier today and I ran across this picture in it was like an advertisement, in my comings and goings, and I noticed it, and it was a digital advertisement, so I couldn't actually get the picture that I wanted, but I just typed this up, okay, because next week, I think like next week, like next Monday or something like that, you got this new federal holiday called Juneteenth, and it was created in 2021 under Joe Biden, and this is just another guise to make Jake, you so-called Negroes and Latinos and Native Americans, mainly you so-called Negroes, the tribe of Judah, to believe that you are free in this world, and in reality, you're not. Okay, what Juneteenth represents is another lie from the devil. The scripture says his words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but in his heart, there was war, roughly paraphrasing. Okay, so for this devil to tell you that you're free, but in reality you're not, that's a lie. And our people are under a great delusion, thinking that you're free and you celebrate these days. What is it, a Juneteenth? You'll celebrate Kwanzaa. All of this stuff is these made up government holidays that they give you. See, they'll give you a BS day. They'll give you so-called Black History Month, right? Which is the shortest month of the year. But then they'll give these sodomites and women a whole 30 days, and then they'll push that spirit onto the world to follow and believe in those things, you know, just like they're pushing this spirit of so-called Juneteenth. They gave you these false colors, red, was it red, black, and green, to represent a false narrative because you're not African, okay? And this is not our flag, this is not these colors don't represent our captivity in this country, and we're still in captivity, all right? So again, this thing right here. This is what inspired this lesson, and I hope you're edified. So this is a little background on the so-called Juneteenth. All right, Juneteenth, officially Juneteenth, National Independence Day, right, is a federal holiday in the United States commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans, which we're not Africans, neither are we Americans. We're the Israelites. And this is particularly talking about the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, mainly Judah, here in America. All right. So that term for emancipation, what does that mean? What does that mean to be emancipated? You see that damn movie come up, you know? It says the fact or process of being set free from legal, social, or political restrictions, liberations, emancipations. Let's look at this word emancipate and the etymology. All right. And the word emancipate and the word and emancipation and the etymology, right? It says a setting free from French emancipation, Latin emancipationem, noun, action for the past participle stem. And modern use, this is modern use, especially freeing of a minor or paternal control, specifically with a reference to the U.S. slavery in 1785. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued uh, July 22nd, 1862, effective January 1st, 1863. All right, I wanted to see something because let's look up the word emancipate, right? Emancipation comes from the word emancipate, right? And again, it says set free from control, which our people are still under the Edomites' control in this society and around the world. From the Latin, from the past participle, emancipar, out of paternal authority, which you Edomites, you're not our paternal authority, all right? The Lord just set you up to be over us because of our wickedness. It says Roman law, the freeing of a son or wife or legal authority to make his or her own way in the world, from assimilated from X out of the way, emancipar delivered, listen to this, transfer or sell So in reality, our people weren't emancipated. We weren't let free from authority of Esau, because what happened when we got so-called free? We were still here. We couldn't go home. All right, we couldn't go back to our homeland. You know, they didn't even want to send Jake back to Africa, let alone Israel. Okay, we went from being private property to the property of the federal government. All right, this is the book of Isaiah. I'm sorry, Ezekiel 35:5. All right, Ezekiel 35:5. And none of the tribes are free, let alone the tribe of Judah. All right, it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword in the time of their calamity and the time their iniquity had an end. Right, because that's what these devils did. When our so-called when our slavery was so-called ended or emancipated, what did they do? They created laws that further subjugated the so-called Negro here in America. All right, and they've done it around the world too, but we're focusing on America right now. Okay, so what did they do? They created Jim Crow. Then they created um, the U.S. prison system, which easily put our people back into chattel slavery. And that's what prison is. That's what the American prison system is. You talk about the 13th Amendment, right? You talk about the 13th Amendment. The average people don't even know what that means or understands it. All right, amend, amend, amend. They don't know what that means. Just like there was a documentary called "Slavery by Another Name," and that's what Jim Crow was, and that's what in reality the 13th Amendment is. All right, it says it's good that it talks about the emancipation in 1863. This was supposed to have been when slavery was over, right? But then they actually passed a bill in Congress January 31st, 1865. All right, and they didn't so-called emancipate the Israelite slaves in America because they felt like, oh, our slavery, we did enough time and whatnot, man. No, it was because they were switching over from chattel slavery to wage slavery, and in this slavery, everybody's going to be a slave. But 1863, it says in 1863, President Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation declaring all persons held as slaves within any state, and which really was the southern states, or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States. And it says, shall be then thenceforward and forever free. Nonetheless, the Emancipation Proclamation did not end slavery. That's right. And the nation, since it only applied to areas of the Confederacy, like I said, the South, currently in the states in a state of rebellion, and not even to the loyal border states. It says it says that remain in the Union. Lincoln recognized that the Emancipation Proclamation would have to be followed by a constitutional amendment in order to guarantee the abolishment of slavery. All right, when I just want to read what the 13th Amendment is. It says right here in Section 1, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for the crime wherewith the party shall have been duly convicted. And that's why you see an over conviction of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, Seminole Indians in these prison houses, man. All right, more than any other race. I think right now they try to say that there are more white people in prison than are black, but those numbers are skewed. It says neither slavery nor involuntary servitude except as a punishment for a crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. And it says Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So what happened? Uh, because of that perpetual hatred that these devils had, they created uh, these different forms of slavery, sharecropping, the prison, what is it called? The leasing, the prison leasing, or it was like, I think it was called like the prison leasing. Uh, they had that going on. Then they had Jim Crow. All right. I'm just looking for a preset real quick. Just bear with me. This is Zechariah 1 and 15. This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 1, verse 15. It says, "And I am very sore displeased with the heathen that are at ease, for I was but a little displeased, and they helped forward the affliction." Yes, right. These heathens, starting out with Esau, Edom, they helped forward our affliction. All right. They didn't do away with slavery. Even Princess Anne said that slavery is not over, and then she smiled and smirked about it. They get these people. They want the president. They want these different world leaders and these different monarchs, Edomite monarchs, to basically admit that they benefit off of the captivity of so-called Negroes, West Indians, and Haitians. All right, and they want them to basically recognize it by either saying sorry or giving some. They really want some financial compensation, but you're not going to get that. And so again, why you're not going to get it? Because you're still in slavery. We're still in slavery. This is the book of Baruch, chapter 3, verse 8. "Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our God," or our power, right? So we're yet this day, because are we not subject to payments? Do we not have to uh, um, you know, be a reproach in this society, and we live through these curses? You know, wherever you see our people at, they're in the lowest throngs of society, whether they living or working or just socializing. Okay, because again, like I said, when this man so-called set us free, and I'm using air quotes, you can't see them, but I'm using air quotes. Where did we go? He sent Jake back to Africa, and it was hell over there in Liberia, which they created, right? To try to be like all Jakes came from Africa, which we didn't. You had Israelites coming from out of Europe and Africa, and around the world, you know, and there were different phases of slavery. But when you Edomites got on top of it, you really benefited most. So again, going back into this Juneteenth, all right, it says Juneteenth is a Juneteenth, officially Juneteenth, National Independence Day, which we're not even independent in this society. Jake still marching, talking about some no justice, no peace. Is a federal holiday in the United States commemorating the emancipation of enslaved Israelites. I'm not going to say African Americans, because we're neither of those two. Deriving in the name from combining June and the 19th, it is celebrated on the anniversary of the order issued by Major General Gordon Granger on June 19, 1865, proclaiming freedom for the slaves in Texas, originating in which you Jakes wasn't free in Texas either. Originated in Galveston, Juneteenth has since been observed annually in various parts of the United States, often broadly celebrating African American culture, which that African American culture is a culture that was created by the Edomites, and that's why they put it there. Why you think every time, um, what you call it, Black History Month come, McDonald's want to try to celebrate you? Why you think every time what is it, Kwanzaa come about, Coca-Cola and these other uh, commercial organizations want to spread that spirit, man? You see, and Kwanzaa didn't really take off in America like they thought it would, which that was something bullshit created. Excuse me, that was some BS created by some wayward Negro and from California. All right. It says the day was first recognized as a federal holiday in 2021 when President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth and National Independence Day Act. And that's another thing. Esau, he'll give you these holidays, but he won't really give you no real compensation. He won't make it right. Okay. All he's going to do is what? Forge your affliction. I want to see what this says in the NLT. All right. What's that? The help for this. Zechariah 1 and 15. Yeah. It says, but I am very angry with the other nations that are now enjoying peace and security. Right. These other nations, they're enjoying peace and security. When you come around the Israelites, we don't have peace and security. I don't care if you go on the tribe of Judah, all the way down to the tribe of Issachar. There's no peace and security. I was only a little angry with my people. That's right. The Lord was only a little angry with us when you think about it in a grand scheme of things, because He could have had us in chattel slavery forever, but He eventually ended that, and now you got Jake doing a little better in this society, you know. But you're not performing at the optimum level, because one, we're supposed to be a sovereign people. If we were truly free, we would have sovereignty on this earth in our own land with our own righteous government ruling. And these people will have to come see us. We ain't gonna have to come see them. But that ain't what happened. It says, and I always like to bring. I'm gonna come back to this, but I always like to bring um, this article that I found some years ago. I think via Elder Ricardo Quant, man, was to show you the real reason why chattel slavery was ended. And it says the history of the hazard. There's a page called the History of the Hazard Circular, and it says um, it says slavery is likely. This is from Hazard Circular 1862, 3 years before so-called Juneteenth, right? Slavery is likely to be abolished. So they already knew that. These Edomites knew that the slavery that they once knew, that antebellum slavery, that was gonna this is before the rebellion, right? That happened, called the Civil War. Says slavery is likely to be abolished by the war power, right? Because we had that civil war in this country, and that's what so-called ended chattel slavery. It says slavery is likely to be abolished by the war power and chattel slavery destroyed. This I and my European friends are in favor of, for slavery is but the owning of labor, and it carries with it the care of the labor. So, right, they put you in wage slavery, they don't got to take care of you no more. Master ain't got to give you no shed to live in, he ain't got to give you no rags to live in, he ain't got to make sure you eat. No, he make you go to work, and you got to earn that. You got to earn your slave wages to get your slave garments and to live in your slave quarters. It don't matter how small or big it is. All right. So it says for slavery is but the owning of labor, and carries with it the care of the labor, while the European plan led on by England. So this is always a plan. This is always a plan of the super elite. Is what? Is capital control of labor by controlling wages. This can be done by controlling the money. And who controls the money? The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the super elite families via their private banks, such as the Federal Reserve. Okay? This is what they did. It says, while rereading the Gustav Meyer's book, The History of the Great American Fortunes, I stumbled upon a little factoid caught in a massive spiderweb of knowledge. That is that 3-volume tome. Pulling upon the thread, I was lucky enough to find at the end of the book that I am reasonably certain has been long forgotten. And so I am currently reading it into an audio book format for your listening pleasure. However, it is always the case, I have stumbled upon yet another interesting bit of information in this current book, and this would be the Hazard Circular. In the book, it was simply referenced as a circular or letter from the creditors of the United States. You see, circa 1862, with the super elite, to every bank in New York and New England. And why? Because we were the currency of the time. We were the stocks, and we were the ones in bonds at the time. So their money was about to switch over. Okay. So it was circulated to banks in New York and New England. The contents of this circular are very provocative. They set out the fact that the banks use the control of the creation of money to enslave people through devaluing their wages. And that's what they do. Instead of just enslaving the Negroes or so-called African Americans, they enslave everybody. All right. We're all in captivity. These Edomites, they think that they're free. They got a better position in this captivity than we do. Likewise, in our kingdom, hey, guess what? Them other nations, they're gonna have a better position in slavery than you Edomites will. You Edomites gonna catch a double dose of the most. Okay? It says little information was readily available on the internet So I turned to the old and moldering books, moldering books and periodicals of centuries ago, uh, to discenter the true history of the Hazard Circular. Let's keep on reading. It says, first and foremost, it would be wise to lay out the contents of the circular in full form and provide a little background about the time in which it was allegedly written. The circular, or private letter, was purported to have been brought to America by Mr. Charles Hazard, from whom the circular derives the name. Mr. Hazard, it said, was an agent of the capital and banking interests in London, the Rothschilds. The circular letters with which he was charged with distributing were to be given to the capitalists and the bankers in New York and New England. The full letter reads, slavery is likely to be abolished by the war power and chattel slavery destroyed. This I and my European friends are in favor of, for slavery is but the owning of labor and carries with it the care of the labor, while the European plan, led on by England, is capital control of labor and by controlling wages. This can be done by controlling the money. The great debt that capitalists will see to it is made out of war must be used as a measure to control the volume of money. And that's what happens. That's exactly what happened, because in 1914, they created that Federal Reserve. This thing is bigger than Nino Brown. That's an inside joke, right? It says, to accomplish this, the bonds must be used as a banking basis, right? Because we were the first bonds used. We are now waiting to get the Secretary of Treasury to make this recommendation to Congress. It will not do to allow the greenback, as it is called, to circulate as money any length of time, for we cannot control them, but we can control the bonds, and through them, the banks issue, right? And it was all about the money. These devils created this shit because they wanted the money. They wanted complete control of the money, which they eventually got. All right. So they had to they ended chattel slavery. But did that mean that we were free because somebody named General Gordon Granger came up with the bright idea of Juneteenth when he decided to tell the Texans that you're free? Which we about to end that right there, because in reality, it's many states in America did not end slavery in 1865. And here's some proof. This is from the ABC News. Mississippi officially abolished slavery, ratifies the 13th Amendment. This is from 2013. It says two medical school colleagues, one an immigrant from India, the other a lifelong Mississippian, joined forces to resolve a historical oversight that until this month had never officially been corrected. The oversight was no small one either. Until February 7th, 2013, the state of Mississippi had never submitted the required documentation to ratify the 13th Amendment, meaning it never officially had abolished slavery. You see this? The amendment was adopted in December 1865, after the necessary three-fourths of the then 36 states voted in favor of ratification. Mississippi, however, was a holdout. At the time, the state lawmakers was upset that they had not been compensated for the value of their free slave. And that's what happened across the world. All throughout Europe and America, these different wealthy planters, they were compensated for the loss of their product, okay, or their property, which was us. All right. But were the slaves compensated? No. That's why you got Jake still marching and hollering, thinking that Esau gonna give him some FRNs. And you got these people, it ain't even just Esau, these other nations don't want to see Jake get no paper. They don't want to see Jake get paid for captivity. But them Japanese, they got paid after them internment camps. These other nations, the Jays, they get paid constantly. They got billions and billions of dollars of payments from these different nations, including America. Right? You know, the first thing they'll say is, well, there's nobody living today that was affected by slavery. But wait a minute, we're living in the effects of that. The abject poverty that the majority of our people are in. These dilapidated dilapidated city communities or neighborhoods in which our people dwell in. You know, the lack of positive resources. You see? Anyway, let's keep on reading. It says the amendment was adopted in 1865 after the necessary three-fourths of the 36 states voted in favor of ratification. Mississippi, however, was a holdout at the time. State lawmakers were upset that they had not been compensated for the value of freed slaves. It says, I'm going to skip down. Mississippi ratified the amendment in 1995, but because the state never officially notified the U.S. archivist, the ratification is not official. Reads the statement on the website. So even if they didn't, let's say they try to say, well, we ended it in 1995, they just didn't get word. The internet exists, mail exists, you could have walked it up there. But Mississippi didn't stop slavery until 1995, and really they didn't end slavery until 2013, according to this ABC News. It's an accredited website. Okay, so where do you get off? Where do you Jakes get off talking about we free? Where's that come from? Because clearly you're not free. Ain't no freedom day yet. Our freedom day gonna come when Yahweh Shai come and deliver us up out of this hellhole, man. This is Jeremiah 50 and 33. Thus saith the Lord of hosts. The children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, and all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go because even though they hate us, even though they don't want us amongst them, we're profitable unto them. As long as they got us in captivity, living in a perpetual state of sin, they believe that our power, Yahweh Shai, is not going to handle them for what they did to us, or they're not going to pay. But they got another thing coming. All right, this is the book of I think it's Zechariah 5. Let me see. Just bear with me. It's a book of Zechariah. It might be Zechariah 5. No, Micah 5. I think Micah chapter 5, verse 15. And I will execute vengeance in anger and fury upon the heathen, such that they have not heard. That's right, because you heathens, you don't know what's coming to you, man. You touched the wrong people, man. The Lord said that we was an apple of his eye. All right? And you nations, you just did whatever you wanted to do with us, especially the nation of Edom. All right? So this is it says, this is the book of Zechariah 2 and 8. For thus saith the Lord of hosts, after the glory hath he sent me unto the nations that spoiled you. For he that toucheth you touches the apple of his eye. So we're the choice of the Most High. So you touch us, you touch the Lord's people. So and the Lord, he's a master at killing two birds with one stone, man. He punishes people at one time, and he's going to destroy these nations and punish them at the same time for what they did to us. All right? It says, after a period of glory, the Lord of heavens of armies sent me against the nations who plundered you. All you nations plundered us. For he said, anyone who harms you harms my most precious possession. Okay? And we are the Lord's most precious possession. Starting off with the elect, but ultimately our people. So you nations, you got to suffer for this, especially the nation of Edom. And they give you these, there's a word for it, these, crappy consolation prizes. To give you a holiday is like giving you a McDonald's prize. That toy ain't worth nothing. It's just something that come with the crap. That's exactly what that is. Here it is. You got Mississippi. Let's look at some more southern states. When did it? I don't know. Let's see. We doing Texas already. It says they did it in 1865. Enslaved Africans first arrived in the region of 1526, showing you that whole so-called 1619 and 2019 was off. Jake had been in captivity in this country. All right. Let me see. Let's look at more states. North Carolina. January 1863. It says slavery was legally practiced in the province of North Carolina, the state of North Carolina, until January 1st, 1863, when President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Prior to the statehood, there were 41,000 enslaved Israelites in the province of North Carolina in 1767, which some numbers can be off too. I'm just looking, but I know Mississippi didn't stop until 1995. When did states abolish slavery? I'm just looking for it. State slavery and free states. Um, let's just focus on Mississippi for now. But yeah, these states they didn't want to let Jake go. All right. It says Mississippi ratified the amendment in 1995, but because the state never officially notified the U.S. archivist, the ratification is not official. So they could have had Jake in chattel slavery in Mississippi right now, and it would have been legal. Reads a statement on a website. Betra felt compelled to act to ratify the clerical oversight. Mississippi gets a lot of bad press about this type of stuff, and I just felt that it's something that should be fixed. And I saw every reason that it could be done. He said, everyone here would like to put this part of Mississippi past behind us. Yeah, you want to put it behind you, but the Lord said He required that which is past. Okay. Yep. It says this is Ecclesiastes 3:15. That which have been is now, and that which is to be have already been. And the Most High requires that which is past. So you Edomites, you gotta suffer for this. Let me see what this says in a different Bible. Right? It says what is happening now has happened before. This is the NLT. And what will happen in the future has happened before. Because the Most High makes the same thing happen over and over again. You see that, Hey, call love Yahweh Shai. You see, it says that which has already been, and what is to be has already been, and the Most High requires an account of what is past. And so you Edomites, you try to do away with the account of what has happened, by saying you want to put that portion of Mississippi past behind you. But you can put it behind you all you want. It's still gonna be waiting for you. Okay? And it says everyone here would like to put this part of Mississippi's past behind us and move on into the 21st century rather than the 19th. You see? So they'll just play it off like it was just an event, you know. But then your own president Biden said he don't think he got to pay for what happened in slavery. Okay. This is an article to Joe Biden posted. He said a whole bunch of stinging things about Jake. All right, let me see if I can find it. What's going on here? Why is it dark? Why is it dark? Salaki, just bear with me, brothers. Yeah, it says Biden's tough talk on and uh, come on, Salaki, brothers. I'm trying to get this from an article from the Interceptor, and it says that stumbled when Biden was asked about the legacy of slavery and gave a meandering answer that in part lectured black people on their parenting abilities. The Times delved into Biden's controversial answer in a separate article. Biden was asked about segregation. His answer included a record player, but the blatant racism in Biden's answer has not received the scrutiny it deserves. Meanwhile, former Housing Urban Development Secretary Julian Castro has borne the brunt of Washington's rage for breaking rules of civil discourse by questioning Biden's ongoing mental acumen. It says, in the second hour of the debate, ABC correspondent Lizzie Davis asked Biden to reflect on a remark he made in the 1970s. I don't feel responsible for the sins of my father and grandfather. I feel responsible for what the situation is today, for the sins of my own generation, and I'll be damned if I feel responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago. And when he was saying this, and in the 70s, slavery didn't happen 300 years ago. It was less. It was less than 150 years. Okay, where matter of fact, hold up, yeah, it was 1865. Yeah, it was less than 100 years when he had said this. You know, it says David said, Biden, you said that some 40 years ago. But as you stand here tonight, what responsibility do you think that Americans need to take to repair the legacy of slavery in our country? And like he already told you, he don't feel responsible for what happened 300 years ago. But guess what? Yahweh Shem Shai is holding you responsible for what happened 300 years ago, according to you. Because every time these Edomites talk about slavery, they quick to say 300 and 400 years ago. No. And you still in captivity. We just told you that Mississippi didn't end slavery until 2013. You know what I'm saying? They didn't ratify it. Now they wasn't, I don't know if they were dragging people hardcore on plantation, but the point of the matter is they drug their feet for a couple hundred years before they allowed that to be fixed. Okay? But again, the Most High is going to hold you accountable for what you and your forefathers have done, because you are your forefathers. And not only in this life or with this transatlantic slave trade, but with all the murder, death, kill that you did to our people. This is Isaiah 14 and 21. Prepare slaughter for his children and for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. For I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name and the remnant of the son and the nephew, saith the Lord. So the Lord's going to end your line. You know, your Joe Biden's, he can lull the average Jakes to sleep, but with these there's a word for, I can't quite remember the word, but with these politically correct gifts such as Juneteenth, so-called Freedom Day, you may or may not get a day off of work. You see, but the Lord is going to make you pay. This is Revelation 11 and 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified, right? And that's America. It's not just talking about Jerusalem, they're talking about America. This place is spiritually Sodom and Egypt. And our Lord's image was X'd out over here as they push that Christianity, as they push that violence on our people and made our people bow down to the sword. Okay? Says this is Salaki's brother. Salaki. All right. So you're gonna pay for what you've done to our people, man. Juneteenth is not Freedom Day. I don't care how you spin it. I don't care what you claim you're doing. We are in captivity today. And the only way we're going to be free is when Yahweh Shai comes and delivers his holy elect. Lord willing, we're some of those men, women, and children that will be saved when the Lord comes and deliver his people from out of this captivity, man. Okay, so with that, let's see Shalom on to the next.